I'm in the east coast of Ireland here, and because I got really good internet and natural sunlight, and I'm going to see David Halpin of the Cult Book Review tonight in here in Naas in County Kildare, do his first lecture for his website Circle Stories, which should be quite good. Looking forward to it. Hoping I'll get to interview David for this channel. Now, while I was talking to Cara St. Louis yesterday, somebody asked me about an experience I had, a demonic attack in Sardinia. Yeah, I think I got time and nothing to do tonight, next couple of hours to kill, so I might as well kill this to get it out. It's not the first time it happened. It's happened me a few times in my life. It's probably happened me a few more than I even remember, but I'll tell you the first time I was ever attacked. Now, people who say there's no such thing as demons, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. The word demons is just the term du jour. It's just a handy phrase to encapsulate a malevolent, often malevolent, non-human consciousness that's really just an energy force. Now, demons don't have a shape or a physical appearance. What things like the Goetia and things like that have attributed these anamorphic or zoomorphic shapes upon these energy forces, so people can understand them better, can comprehend them better, what they do. So, for instance, Beelzebub is often portrayed as a fly, the Lord of the Flies, because his manifestation is often accompanied by flies. Now, Paimon he appears as a blue light. And I know some friends of mine, when we were kids, successfully summoned Paimon by burning cocoa beans. Now, and Paimon fills the room with blue light. And as a result, he's associated with the sea, with the water. And he's often summoned. You don't invoke demons, you summon them. You invoke gods and angels in order to get information about things under the sea. So he was very popular with people who worked around the sea and things like that. So he wanted to know where treasure was buried or ships were sunk or where bodies were in rivers. He was often summoned in order to find this out. Now, my first demonic attack, I had weird things happen. Like one time, I went, well, this may or may not be, it may be catalytic exteriorization phenomenon, but I'll talk through everything that ever happened to me. About 11, no, I was older, about 14. I was lying in bed one night reading a book. It wasn't a spooky book or anything, it was just a trashy novel, probably cowboy stories. And I suddenly I felt like this enormous pressure was pushing on me, like the air was thick and it's not strong. And it pushed and pushed and it pushed and it pushed. And it pushed upon me, and I got this sensation that there was something in the wardrobe beside my bed. And this very small bedroom I had, tiny. I basically slept on a mattress on the floor. I didn't even have a bed. And the wardrobe, no, it was a light wardrobe. It wasn't a big, heavy wardrobe. It was a small, single person's light wardrobe, and there wasn't a lot of clothes in it. It lifted up in the air and landed on top of me on my bed. And freaked me out, pushed it over. I jumped out the bedroom window, my clothes on real quick, jumped out the bedroom window and ran downtown just to be around people and down around lights. That was the first time. That was about, I must be about 14 or something like that. The second time I was 17, and I've often talked about this, there was an earthquake in Dublin, and I was lying. Now this is an interesting one. Did the earthquake trigger this, or did, we'll talk about it, but there was an earthquake in Dublin. It was 81, 82, about 17 I was lying face down in a place, and I was living in a place called Tala. Now Tala literally means city of the dead, or land of the dead, or land of the corpses. It is where the Parthenons died of a mass plague. Well, this is the legend. They died of a mass plague there about 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And their bodies are buried all over Tala. And that's where I was living at the time. And I was sleeping face down in my bed like this, and it was a beautiful sunny morning. I woke up Saturday, and bed shook like that, and what sounded like a hammer being dropped on the concrete floor. Boom, 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 boom. And that was the earthquake. And I said, oh, that was weird. I thought it was an explosion because there was still IRA stuff I think going on around that time, UVF and all that kind of thing. Troubles were still going, and Tala was a kind of an IRA hotbed. So, so I turned around and I looked in the corner of my bedroom, and there was a thing that looked like a monkey, about that size. It was it was basically a monkey. I mean, an ape type monkey. It was exactly the same as the thing that appears in the Henry Fuseli's painting, The Dream or the Nightmare, the one where the woman is lying in a bed and a monkey's on her chest and there's a white horse behind her. The thing was looking around the room like this, and then it made eye contact with me. And the minute it made eye contact with me, it screamed like a wild scream and launched itself from the corner of the room and landed on my back because I was still on my chest, looking around like this. It started pounding and pounding and pounding on my back. It was sticking its finger out like this and its fist all the way in as it was trying to suffocate me, but all the time screaming. But it was a scream you couldn't actually make it up. It almost was electronic sounding. Like a bad AM signal being tuned in. I picked it up like this and I went, get the fuck off, man! And I threw it towards the wall. The wall was here in front of me as I faced down. Vanished. I fell asleep. I woke up and I went, that was some fucking nightmare. And I went upstairs to have a wash and my whole back was covered in bruises. That was number 2. Number 3 happened on September 29th, no, September 30th, my birthday, 2012. And it was one of these ones where it was half a dream, half reality. And I was lying in bed and I drifted off into a dream. And up until that point, I was having this constant recurring dream of a house, at a kind of an American colonial house at the corner of a street. And I could go into the first floor, but I couldn't. I could get to the second floor, but to go on higher floors was very difficult, very painful, very a wicked sensation that something horrific lived up there. Those dreams have stopped, by the way. This is one of these things where the dream and the attack was the same. So this was by far the most visually disturbing, and this is 2012. I'm in the bottom part of this house, and then all these people start coming in and they start rifling through the drawers. Look as if they were looking for photographs of information like secrets, and they were like all kind of effeminate men and hysterical women. And then one of them opened the door, and I says, "Don't open that fucking door." Now at this point, I woke up. The door opened, and in front of me in my bedroom, and awake and asleep, I can't explain, it's very difficult, was a thing that had, I called it the electrical Nightchester. It had a buzzing electrical sound. It was a kind of a white conical half ball, about that height off the ground, 3-4 feet, and on a sheet that was like made out of something like chainmail. It shimmered, and it went buzzing noise again. It had one eyeball that extended from a tube outside in the front of its forehead, and had 2 arms, and one arm was holding the eyeball as if like a telescope and looking, and it started to move towards these people who were now in my bedroom and touching them, and they were screaming and dissolving, and I managed to go run away from the thing to the side of the room, and it vanished, and I got outside. It was robbing energy from the air. It was stealing energy from the immediate environment and sucking any life force that came into this electrical form. Then the last one was 2 years ago in Sardinia. I was there making with a film crew. We were making a film, and we went to this very remote cairn, neuragic kind of grave thing, temple thing, well, high up in the mountains in central Sardinia. It was a hell of a walk to get up there. It was almost impossible to find because the interior of Sardinia is all made of boulders about that size covered in moss. Very difficult to walk on and very difficult to see megaliths because there's rocks everywhere and suddenly you find this thing. Now, we went to this spot. We found that TV crew set up all their equipment and uh, I did my spiel first, and then I went to sit. I went to sit at the back. Now, before I went to sit at the back, I've been told that Satanists, that what the locals call them in Italian, Satanists, Satanica, were still using these places up in the mountains. And there was the body of a cow, a bull, a young bull, and its horns were still there. And I picked up the horns and I put them on the end of the steel in front of the Neuragic temple or whatever it is, and looked around and says that thing was only that's been sacrificed in recent years. The bones of the entire animal were just in front of the main part. It was also, so the bull cults are very strong in Sardinian witchcraft. So I went down to the back and it was the sun was starting to shine and it was just me enjoying the countryside, enjoying the vibe, enjoying the feeling, and I felt like something on the inside of the temple had grabbed my leg and was pulling me into it like this, pulling me in, pulling me in, pulling me in. And I kicked it off. And then I got up and I felt like I was having the worst hangover of my life, coupled with the worst flu of my life, coupled with the worst dizzy spell of my life. And my life force was falling out at the end of my shoes. And so we barely got back to the car. In fact, I was unable to crawl over a dry stone wall that we crawled over to get in. And the only way I got through was to push the stone wall over by leading the force of my body into it. Now, as the car went back to what was it? I think it was Sassari, the city of Sassari. I was like, it was like, I can't describe it. It was like the 2001 Space Odyssey scene where he goes to Jupiter and that kind of like trip part. I went to the hotel, and before I went in, I knew exactly what I had to do. I bought a large bag of salt, and what I used the salt and how I removed the entity from me, you can read about that in my book Sorcery. But that's all you're getting from me for now. So, as far as I know, I've had 3 demonic attacks. One when I was about 14 when a wardrobe jumped on top of me. And there wasn't like, that's a 50-50 one. The other one was a somnambulic state where absolutely a real entity attacked me through my dreams. Because I was psychically at a low point. I was also being attacked by a cult. And there wasn't a cult who sent the entity. It was the cult, they don't have any power of magic or anything like that. It was the breakdown. Oh, and I do have one more. Also in 2012, I was in a friend's house in Yorkshire, and someone asked me about the Archons, and I says, well, the Archons, the theory is that there's a name given to non-earthly, non-human life consciousness forms that are basically trying to destroy humanity, something along the lines of David Icke's reptilians. But I said, I think the namings are all wrong. I think they're something else. And at the moment when I said, I think there's something else, I started like shaking violently. And my friend's face, they all went white. And I had to jump up, and it was the house, the apartment was in a converted old mill. You get them all over Yorkshire. And there's a metal column that ran right through the building from the ground to the floor, from the ceiling, of the roof of the building. And the only way I could maintain this attack, was to hold onto the metal bar. And if my friend Linda and her friend Debbie were not there, both shamanic drummers, to actually clean me, I probably would have died that day. That was the closest I came to actually, because I was not ready for that. And like after that, I've always been ready ever since. So that's my experience. Anyone who says these things are, imagination or anything like that, they're full of shit. Anyone who says they're brought about by viruses and stuff like, no, that's not true. They're not. There are other forms of consciousness on this planet, There are other forms of beings on this planet, and they mostly have an interest in humanity, but there are certain aspects that they want to destroy them, and they want to destroy especially the ones who are, should we say, juicy to them. So someone like me who has a lot of friends and a lot of influence and a big kind of a very loving fan club. I hate using that word, supporters club around the world. I would be seen as an ideal target because, like, by taking me down, they take down everything else, and so these things are real. And if people do ever have these experiences, you're going to find out that you're on your own. You really will, and you know calling a priest won't help. That won't help at all. I think you'd be much better off dealing with people who are shamans and stuff like that. Don't take alcohol. Don't take drugs, weed, anything. That's going to make you more vulnerable. I'm not saying anytime. I mean, when you're going through these periods, one of the things I will tell you that you do notice about a demonic attack when it's encroaching is you smell smells that are strange. Sometimes it smells like burnt cardboard that the flame has been put out, a distinct smell of burnt cardboard. And that's a common one. You hear electronic noises. No, I mean, in real electronic, this is a fascinating thing about them. Is the noises are unmistakably electronic sounding, almost electromechanical in nature. And also, you will you will find that after it happens, you have a completely different view of the world. You're not more frightened or anything like that. If anything, you're more you don't waste your time with things like politics and stuff like that. You understand that there's forces. There's a lot of truth to what people like David Icke says. It's unfortunate he's wrapped it up in lizards and stuff like that. But the upper echelons are infected by these things like a disease, and a lot of it is through sexuality. And we see my other video today, my other channel, my Thomas Sheridan channel. I made a video about Lawrence of Arabia, and that's how the jinns got into the British and the Anglo-American aristocrats. So there's a story. I hope you learned something from it. If you've had stories like this, uh, tell them down below. If this is your first time to the channel, uh, subscribe and click the little bell icon so you always get updates. This is quite a complex channel. Enjoy the videos. My website is www.mossuponstones.com, and you can check out my book Sorcery. I'll put the link down below. And remember, it's look, if you're gonna watch the film Hereditary, just watch it. That's pretty accurate of what it's like, the sensation. And if you're left with a weird sensation after watching that film, you've got a very good insight into what a demonic experience is like. And you know me, I'm Mr. Anti. I don't reference movies. I'm not into any of that stuff. I'm not one of these kind of people in the truth scene who constantly reference movies. I don't do that. I place little or no value upon popular culture. But sometimes now and again, it opens a real window that you need to close as soon as possible. Thank you.